Addictions, religious abuse, and recovery. This live platform offers meaningful questions and answers, a counseling continuum, and valuable feedback from professionals and others who have been through the process and are healed, forgiven, and reconciled. If they can achieve this, so can you. This program can be heard on iHeart, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, and others. Make no mistake, this podcast sustains and implements three things: healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation within the Church of God. Thanks for listening.
Good day, friends. Good to see you again for the podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We're glad you're here to join us this evening. We discuss a litany of different topics on this live podcast. It includes addictions, religious issues, religious abuse, recovery, but that's our main focus, recovery. This platform offers a counseling continuum, and also you can call in with your questions and or comments. We do enjoy those immensely. And text in 1-866-538-3664. Again, you can text in tonight, this live broadcast podcast, 1-866-538-3664. Also, you can call us, Wounded Hearts. That number is 478-283-9093. Again, you can call us, Wounded Hearts, phone number 478-283-9093. You can also email us at Wounded Hearts. That email address is reeechone@AOL.com. Again, if you want to email us, Wounded Hearts, you can. That email address is reeechone@AOL.com. And we've been blessed to have a staff that works with us here to do all the different things that need to be done. And of course, our director, Tania McLeod, she's in the Atlanta, Georgia area. She's a wife, mom. She homeschools, and she is the founder of Arise magazine. We also have Stella Cabin. She's in the Ohio area. She's been saved 60 plus years and in her 90s now. And we thank God for her. Her dad, a minister, son was a pastor, and she has two nephews that are ministers and one pastor. So Church of God, she does know about that. And again, we also want to mention Ken Prose. We don't want to forget him. Ken Prose, Oklahoma area. He was a pilot in Alaska, and we had planned to do more work. I was up there about 10 years ago in Fairbanks. He was south. We wanted to get together and do some ministry in Alaska, but the Lord took him home. He's in the Joplin area, so we do mourn his departure. But again, glad you're here tonight to join us. Friends, we discuss different topics on this podcast. Some of these opinions are quite touchy at times, sensitive. But we need to discuss these things to do a better job in maintaining unity. Many have been hurt. Mr. Davis did a book, and can you imagine? 40 million people are stopped going to church. 10 million have stopped going because of wounds in the church. So we want to do what we can to reach out to some of those who've been hurt and wounded, and to let them know God loves them and the church loves them. See if they can't come back to the church. So discretion is needed in these discussions. But make no mistake, friends, our only focus is just three things: implement and submit to our listeners and viewers healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness in God's church. That's why we're here. We're not here to do this or that, throw stones. No way. We want to just reach out with healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation in God's church. So join us and be ministers of reconciliation. You know, podcast is just exploding, friend. That's why we've got into it. Globally, can you imagine 400 million people listen to podcasts? 30 million listen each week. And so this podcast can be heard on Podbean, PodPal, Podium, Soundwise, Mumbler, Gesso, Hubhopper, Buzzsprout, Amazon Google, Poddash, Amazon Music, Pandora Review, Apple Face, SoundCloud, Alexa, and True Social. And of course, YouTube and Facebook. Our director has expanded that listening audience for us for our director. So we thank her for that. Because we've been discussing a very challenging topic, and it has definitely caused division in the church in the 80s, still going on today. And again, we are about those three things: unity and forgiveness. I want to discuss these areas if we can't do better in creating an atmosphere of unity and forgiveness. We've been discussing the woman in the wilderness and the effects of it, how it happened, the different sides of it. Are we throwing stones? No. We just want to look into it to know how to do things better. So Brother Mullins has been talking to about that. He was there. He's got some information on both sides of the issues, documentation. We're going to talk about that again today. Brother Mullins, you all know him. He's been around for, I guess about 40 years, maybe more, teaching, preaching around the country. He's a father ministering in Alabama now, and we're just glad he is here. Let's give Brother Mullins a hand. We're glad you're here, Brother Mullins. And I do mean that for you to have the burden to want to reach out like we're doing here for those reasons, to see if we can do things better and to really be able to see some better results from unity. Brother Mullins, how can people contact you? I'm sure we have questions about this every week. We're going to read some maybe next week. But they want to find out more about that. How can they contact you? Where is your church? Where do you meet? What's your address, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay, our church is on Goodwater Highway, 1950 Goodwater Highway, Silicotta, Alabama, 35072. 35150 is the zip code, 35150. Okay, and my phone number is 256-487-3862. So anyone can feel free to call me anytime, call or text, and I'd be glad to discuss with anyone at any time we're available.
And Brother Mullins had some people contact him over these issues, which is really good. We want to be a conduit for that. So if you have calls or you want to text us, now's the time. Friends, this time goes by so fast on this podcast. Brother Mullins, take it away. Do you want to go through your documentation, or what do you want to do? It's up to you.
Okay, yeah, we'll just go ahead and start out with reminding everyone as we are bringing these documents. So we're not dealing with one side of the story. Be it very clear. We've got both sides of this story, and a lot of people that only heard one side of the story, they think they know the whole thing, and it's caused a lot of people to really misbehave themselves. But in my research, it took me about 2 years to gather this info together, and really because we had the burden, and we still have the ministry of reconciliation that God has given.
That's true. That's right. That's true.
And so, if it can't be with these groups, it would be to whoever's saved and interested in reconciliation. So
we're interested because we all want to learn to do better. Unity's got to be taught. Love has to be taught. And so we're interested very much so to do better in the future, because the devil is not sleeping. He's alive and well. We want to learn to do better in the future. That's why we're here. So thank you for your burden tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, brother. And I would also like to say this before we look into some more documents that are, just so plain. This division, it was called over the woman in the wilderness, but this division was not about the woman in the wilderness. This division was about man's pride and things working in personal ways between one another. Wow. And as the years had went on, I'd even had one minister that was no longer with either of those groups but was very active in that split, had told me that he'd confirmed what I just said. He said that wasn't about the woman in the wilderness.
Wow.
And but that's what was used. I had another minister when I was, trying to bring these together and discuss and talk about it. One person said, "Well, that's the only thing we could hang him on." And I thought,
Wow.
why do we have a spirit that we want to hang someone?
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And that was actually said to me. And but anyway, so this all finalized in 1985. Okay, and so it's still being perpetuated 40 years later. And like I say, we're far removed from either side of this, but yes, we do want to learn from it and be better because of it, and help us in going forward, that we
Yes.
can do as the Word of God says, that in the seventh seal day, or when the sun is as seven, that God will mend the breach of His
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if we can't get past this mentality, then we will be a hindrance to God mending that breach. Okay, so if we could, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, a comment just came in from JP. He asked,
Okay.
why do eyewitnesses of this account have a much different take than what you do?
Well, that's because you don't really know what you're talking about. I've got your book that your pastor wrote. I know who JP is, and I know where you're from. And so I've got Brother Wilcoxon's little green book, just like you do. And if you look at that with an unbiased opinion, it's very incriminating of where you are. So I don't really, I'm going to present some more facts here that also came from your camp meeting, in the Manassas camp meeting in 1997. So if you'll sit back and take a look at that and then listen to the facts, it could really help you, and it could help you in your zeal. Okay. All right. So, sister, if you could put up the that cover page just to show you where it came from. It's called, at the top there, this is printed in the remnant. If you see at the top right hand of the page, this is from the remnant. So this is the paper taken from that fellowship. And the name of the message, this message was actually preached in 1997.
Do I have the correct paper? Is it this one?
Yes, you do. That's it. That's
Okay.
it. It don't have the date. They didn't date these, for whatever reason. But the actual message was preached in the Manassas camp meeting in 1997. Okay, that's a fact. And if you go on and look, it was their 50th anniversary. So their camp meeting was founded in 1947. So this was the 50th anniversary. So that's 1997. So it's called The Church, and it's and it goes on to say history. Okay, and it was preached by G.W. Powell, who was my original pastor, which I know very well, obviously. So, but so then there we can see in there it was taken from the Church of God at Manassas, Virginia. Okay, but then we want to go to the next page, which was actually the last page in this article. It'll be page 15. And what I wanted to look at is the charges beginning at the near the top of the page, because let's go ahead and get in some others too, because this was charging anyone that was outside of their group. This was actually, again, this was preached in a public camp meeting. And so I'll begin reading there, actually on the second line where it says, then about. Okay, and we can see other places where it was disparaged as well. But again, what we're dealing with is the split of 85.
Yes.
So
yes.
let me read this. Go ahead, brother. Did you have something?
No, sir.
Okay.
Please,
Okay, so I'll begin reading, if that's up for those to see. Then about 1972 or 1973, another division came, and he was just going through and, teaching a lot of things according to the way he saw it in time. He said another division came, and he said a man from Newark, Ohio, became lifted up in pride and came out with the false doctrine of only one cleansing. So you see, these kind of charges have been fed to these people. Okay, so and that's and they really think they're standing for the truth when they misbehave themselves. That was a sad day, he said. Many saints, ministers, and whole congregations were swept away with that. Since that time, false doctrine has swept them into deeper confusion. There again, charges. Thank God, once again, there was a remnant that weathered the storm. Good men of God who stood true while under pressure. Goes on then in 1985. So this is the current charge that we're dealing with. So this is 12 years later. This is still been heralded. Then in 1985, another man from Alabama became lifted up and brought another heresy that caused division. Very strong charges, and we've already proved to you that wasn't so from the very individual from his mouth who was charged. They said, bringing the false teaching that the pure woman of Revelation, the 12th chapter of the church, the bride of Christ, became the harlot woman of Revelation 17. He changed the meaning of the symbol itself and taught, see, this is so far off, and taught that the church was destroyed. We've proved over and over, if you got any ability to reason, we've proved over and over that the man made it very clear he was never teaching or believing such a thing. It says he changed the meaning of the symbol itself and taught that the church was destroyed, meaning that at one point in history, the true church ceased on the earth and that no one was saved. That is farce. That is just absolutely unbelievable. And he went on to say Jesus said that he would have a church and the gates of hell would not prevail against it. So that'll be enough of that. Now, if we could go, sister, to the third one that I sent you from it's a transcript from Brother Spinogle. Once again, we dealt with some of those last week. And so there's so much. I could really go through this whole message, but we wouldn't have time.
Sure.
But so we find these things were preached in a public camp meeting. These kind of charges were made among an entire fellowship. Okay. And so then we find this brother is once again preaching in a way to try to clear himself from such charges that he never believed. And let me say this before I read this.
Okay.
Back in 2016, you want to talk about eyewitnesses? I want you to know I'm very much an eyewitness. Okay. And this actually referring to JP, his former pastor, in 2016, here in the Alabama camp meeting, he and I and another young minister from that group at the time went over in the church building. Okay. And I began to explain some more things that no one ever believed or taught or heard the things they were charged with. And so JP's former pastor said to me, he said, I don't guess they did hear that. That's what we told them they were doing. Okay. So I'm an eyewitness of that. All right. So now I'm not here to go tit for tat. I'm just telling you the facts from both sides of the coin. Now, again, I'm not with either group.
That's so important to hear both sides. Friends, we got to take a break. We're going to come back, but we need you to text in or email in while we have time. We got only about 10 more minutes. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, so don't leave. Very important information here. But Lamont's not saying that on the side. We're just discussing the facts of what happened and how we can do things better. That's our focus, friends, to reach out to those who have been hurt, those who've been wounded, if at all possible, to encourage them. That's why we're here. No other reason why. We'll be right back. Don't leave.
Greetings. Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches is a weekly podcast reaching out to the disenfranchised, disconnected, or wounded. Remember, You are not forgotten. You went through a debilitating situation. As a result, we are reaching out to you in love with forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing. We also offer an exciting magazine called Arise. It's an excellent fit for class discussions or personal devotions. Arise can be purchased through our website or by calling 478-784-7600. This podcast was designed by Church of God for Church of God. Don't go away. Stay tuned for more exciting conversations. Thanks for listening.
That's why we're here, friends, to reach out to you in love. The staff people here, we spend thousands upon thousands on this to reach out in love to you. That's why we're here, just to try to unify and bring about some healing here. Brother Mullins, please continue.
Okay. All right. So if the sister could put up the third one, I don't know if it's up or not. I can't see it from my screen, just so the audience can see it as we read along.
Okay.
It's up.
Okay. Yes. So again, this is transcripts from a message from Brother Spinogle, and obviously trying to defend himself from these charges. And he stated just numerous times over and over that God always had a people. There was always a church. Church was never destroyed. That seemed like just every little bit that was stated, because he knew what the battle was at that time. But it will break in right there at the top. And if we have time, I'll back up and read the previous page. He says, there's always been saved people. Okay, now remember the charges that was read in the Manassas camp meeting. There's always been saved people. That means there's always been a church and always will be a church in God's mind. He was writing to the Thessalonians because there had been some wrong reports go forth. It was either people were misled or it was malice. There was malice. Some people are just waiting to hear something wrong. If you're having trouble getting along with somebody and you're jealous of them, and perhaps they put some judgment on you, and you have something in your cross, and you sort of just don't like some of their mannerisms, and there's a little root of bitterness there, you'll pick up anything. And he goes on to say, if I got on your nerves and I've put some judgment on you, now remember, this is being preached publicly, and you're still resenting it, and that root down there, just the least little thing, and you'll grab at it. The get even spirit. You're really chaffing. It's been there a long time, and you're just waiting for your time. Now, that can't be holy, can't be a pure heart. But some people can hear the wrong information and can believe something is so when it's not so. But they won't want to be believing it. It will make them feel terrible. They won't want to say, I told you so. It will make them feel terrible. They'll feel so bad. They won't want to be shouting around over it. They'll feel so bad. And how does this misinformation come about? Because this spirit is not dead. It's one way the enemy has of trying to undermine God's ministry. It will come and trouble you. And he goes on to say, has anything been troubling you lately? It's a troubling spirit. But he went on to, and we could, read quite a bit in that, but he declared his position over and over. So there was something personal going on here. This wasn't about doctrine. It wasn't about the woman in Revelation. It wasn't about the symbol. The man clarified that. So what was it about? It had to be personal. It was personal.
Wow.
Because we can see the man's words, okay? But he was never given a chance to defend himself with this other group of people. And so that's when I got involved in it. I began to see, look, this brother has never believed what's being taught here. And so I couldn't go along with it. And if we do, I would hope that everybody watching this podcast has the burden for forgiveness and reconciliation and healing. Okay, not to continue to perpetuate. And again, if anybody I would be glad to meet with someone take a couple of days and meet with someone, I would go over everything I have here and be glad to show it to them and then let them make their own decision. That's what I did in my congregation. Okay, I didn't just get up and say so and so's wrong, or you know what we did here in the congregation. We had Q&A. We would take Wednesday night services. We would take Sunday night services. We had slideshows. My congregation has seen every ounce of this information, and I said, you know what? Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind.
Yeah.
And everyone here could come up with no other conclusion than what we have come to. Now, again, we're not with either group, but we're willing to reach our hand in fellowship to all saved people.
So you have no dog in the game. You have no skin in the game.
I really don't, brother. I really don't. This was just part of my journey and how we got to kind of where we are today. But my burden goes far beyond the woman in the wilderness. That's really, I was a little bit apprehensive when you asked me to bring it, because I thought we're so far past that.
Sure.
But, you know, if it could help someone, or if it could help us going down the road when we face other things, to make sure there's not resentment or not personal vendettas or not envy or jealousy or I don't like this brother's mannerism, or this brother intimidates me, or whatever, you know, that's a lot of it. That's a lot of what created this. I'm convinced of it.
Brother Mullins, our time is beyond gone. Yes, ma'am. Our comments.
At least there's tons of them. So I'm sorry, audience, I couldn't get to everyone, but I do have a very important question here from JC. He said, do you have an email, he or she, do you have an email address we can send a document to? We be interesting to see another side of this. So do you have an email address that you can share?
Yes, I do. It is sm.mullins, Mullins, 1981 @gmail.com.
And everyone, we're able to forward questions from Wounded Hearts to him also too. We have many ministers on. We can forward those questions to him, and also from our archives also too. Brother Mullins, we're at the end again, but our main focus is those who've been wounded and hurt, not coming to church services. What would you say to them tonight who've been wounded, who've been hurt? Because it's a miracle, but you've been through and still serving God, still encouraged. What advice would you give us, people who've been hurt, wounded on this way?
Don't allow the bad behavior of people that you've had confidence in to hinder you. Keep your eyes on God and keep confidence in your own obedience, and follow what's right instead of worrying about who's right.
From our director, any last comments?
No, we do have a lot of comments, but we'll get to our audience hopefully next week, Lord's willing.
And everyone, we thank you for your questions. We got a question. The person asked, who is the woman in the wilderness? They want to know who it is, because they're trying to find out. We're going to answer that question next week. So friends, come back next week. We are here to simply learn to do things better. We're here to maintain unity in God's church. There's been a lot of situations that have occurred the past 100 years. We want to do better. That's why we're here. So Brother Mullins, thank you tonight for being here. Any last comments before you go? Anything you want to say? Okay. No, thank you for being here, my friend. Lord bless you. To our director, thank you so much. And to our listeners, we love your input. Please continue. May the Lord bless you. Amen.
Amen.